All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a quick overview of the syllabus for C++, Programming 1. So I'm going to go through all the basic information you need to know, some of the stuff, hopefully be able to answer some of your questions. Of course, if you have any other questions outside of what I've kind of outlined here, then by all means ask. But first off, this is, of course, C++ Programming 1. The only real prerequisite is really just college algebra, and that's still relatively a loose prerequisite or co-requisite. You don't necessarily have to do like high-level math to do this. This is a very intro-level class, right up there with Python or Java. You're just going to be learning the basics of how to make introductory programs with this particular language. Now, you're going to be doing a fair number of things, from just, how to display things on the screen, to do math, order, logic, make choices and things like that, loops. We'll probably talk a little bit about arrays and some other stuff as well. That's going to be the rough gist of it. Again, very introductory level. If you've had other programming languages before this, depending on what it is, structure and everything is still pretty similar in a lot of programming languages. In fact, some of the code is pretty similar. Just might be some slight differences in syntax and things here. If you've got no experience doing any kind of programming, well, this is still an introductory level programming class. So either way, you're still learning how to do, the intro programming stuff. So let's move on down as to what's going to occur here. Now, my physical classes and online classes are pretty similar in a sense, whether you're in class or not. Every week there will be lectures. If you're in class, then you'll be sitting there with me while I lecture. And those lectures are generally initially maybe like how some things work, or some history about the programming language or what we're doing, explaining how this concept we're going to be discussing works in real life. And then we will literally just open up our programs and make stuff. I'm a firm believer of, if you want to learn how to do it, then you need to make it. So essentially, what's going to be posted online will be every lecture I give in class. Exact same thing. So if you're in a physical class, you'll still have those lectures. If you're online, well, you'll have the same lectures as everyone else. Now, what you're going to need to do is open up your program, IDE, Integrated Development Environment. In this case, it would be Visual Studios for C++. And you will build alongside the video lecture that I'm giving you. And of course, if you run into a problem or question, you can always message me. If you're online, of course, if you're in physical, you can raise your hand and ask. But what you're going to do is build alongside me. Now, as we go through that, we'll do that several times a week, building little pieces of program. I'll explain how they work and what they're doing, where the problems are, what errors and stuff you'll see, that sort of thing. We'll go through that, and then we'll have programming assignments after that. And the programming assignments tend to be, well, initially, there's only going to be like some kind of introductory level stuff. And then we're going to get to our first big real programming project, because it's going to take a little while for us to actually get some stuff down to where we can actually make something. But then we're going to have a 10, 20, 30-point project. The 10 is very basic, what's going on, what particular topic we're talking about at that given moment. The 20 will be a little bigger, it's going to have some more components. And the 30 will be everything we've covered up to that point. So as the class progresses, the 30-point project that we have will get bigger and bigger and bigger. But you're still going to have the same amount of time as far as it goes to do that project. The thing is, as we go further the class, the projects get bigger, but you should be more skilled and able to make more at that point. And then, of course, after our 30-point project, we would have our test over that topic. And then we'll move on to the next lectures, 10, 20, 30. And you'll have a mixture of both during the week, because we'll still be discussing topics even when there's a programming assignment due. Now, if you're online, most of my stuff's posted on Monday, so you'll have the whole week to go through lectures and programming assignments, and everything will be due on Sunday. If you're physical, well, again, things would typically be posted the first week of the class of the week, and it would still be due Sunday. So there's really not a lot of difference between physical and online, aside from you get to see me. Now, of course, you do get to see me. I'm at the DeSoto Center, room 220. I teach probably about 10 classes a semester. Almost all of them are physical. You could be anywhere from 7 to 9. So if you do need to find me, come to DeSoto Center. I'll have my office hours posted. You can come find me. Ask questions if you need. Now, there is a book that comes with it. It's an ebook. You can get a physical copy if you want. And there may be one or two little projects that you may have to do, depending in said book. I might have you read a section of the book or a part of the book and write a project or write a little thing or answer a question about it or something like that. We'll see as the course goes along. But you've already paid for it. You've already got the book. So Visual Studios is going to be needed as well. I do have a link, I believe, in Canvas directly for that file, but you can also Google it, because the link I have is actually for the PC version. If you have some other type of computer, like a Mac or something, you may need to do a quick Google and find the appropriate one for you. Grading scale we'll get to a bit later, but academic integrity, first and foremost, you are supposed to be doing the programming for this, not someone else, not AI, no chat GPT or anything like that. This is a class for you to learn how to make a program, not to learn how to have a tool that makes it for you. If you get caught turning in someone else's code, or turning in something that the chat GPT or any of those other programs made for you, you will get a 0 the first time. And so will somebody else if it happens to, be someone else's code. I don't mind if you're asking somebody for help or anything like that, but you do need to be able to, do the project. Now, ChatGPT, I've gotten quite used to, what it looks like when those types of projects are turned in. So if you use that, I will probably know. There's also tools that tell you if it was AI generated. So I would highly encourage you not to use those at all. They are great tools used in the right place. Like for a company or something, you could use those for bits and pieces of code here to automate some processes. But when you're learning, they don't help you learn. So don't use them. And there's a couple of reasons for this. One, you're probably going to get caught. And if you get caught a second time, you receive an F in the course and you're no longer here. Two, even if you don't get caught, the projects are going to get progressively more and more difficult as we go along. And the tests are all, for the most part, application oriented. I mean, there'll be some terms, there'll be some code for you to read, and then there will be, of course, a project for you to build. Now, if you just used AI for all of that, it will be very, very difficult to pass that test if you can't do it yourself. And I actually caught a person once who was cheating. I missed, like when they turned in the work, I didn't notice it was someone else's completely. And then they got to the test and they failed it miserably. And when I look back at their projects, I noticed it wasn't really their projects, it was somebody else's. So make sure you do your own work, and the test is actually relatively easy. You don't do your own work, you copy someone else's or use, the AI generated stuff to turn it in, you will fail either way, because the tests are a good percentage of the class here. The final exam as well. The final exam you'll have to take in person, so you won't be able to, if you did manage to cheat through everything else, there's no way you'd manage to cheat through that. So don't, particularly if you plan to go to C++ 2 or one of the other programming classes. If you don't get the basics out of this class, it really is going to be impossible to continue onward to the much more difficult stuff. Attendance policy. Now, an online class meets once a week, as you can see. and that means you get 2 absences. A physical class, most physical classes tend to meet 3 times a week, which means you would get 7 if you're physical. So depending on how you do it, this is how many absences you're allowed. If you're online, an absence is essentially you didn't turn anything in that week. There will always be like one thing for you to do that week, and as long as you turn something in my class, I count you there that week. If you turn in nothing, then you get an absence. And you always want to turn in something. If there's a programming project or something, then, even if you can't finish it for whatever reason, like maybe you're stuck, you can't finish the entire thing, turn in what you've got. 1, it will count for your attendance. 2, you'll get some credit if you can build some of it. If you turn in nothing, you get 0. So always turn in something rather than nothing. So now, once you go over attendance, you're not in that class anymore. You get cut. Of course, that depends on when in the semester that happens. If it's before midterms, then you're just withdrawn from the class. If it's after midterms, depending on where it is, you may just fail the course. So make sure you turn stuff in every single week. And that's also the same if you were like in an in-person on-campus course. You would get attendance for being there, but the Friday attendance would usually be turning something in. And again, you always want to turn something in. Now, statement of authority and stuff like that, if anyone disrupts or is disrespectful or anything like that, I've never actually had that happen. Hopefully I never do, but if it's a physical classroom, you'd be removed. Of course, if it's via messages or something like that, that's all documented stuff, and the higher-ups will deal with that. Again, I've never had that happen, so just be nice and polite to everybody whenever you can. If anyone has any disabilities or anything like that, I am and will always be getting those emails at the beginning of the semester, and essentially, if you have any questions or requests or anything like that, you can come see me. You can also see the head of our disability programs. Safety statements. If you're physically here, obviously it's a little different than if you're online. If you're physically here, we have, if there's a fire, obviously we leave out the door. We don't go into the fire. If there is an earthquake or something, the building probably won't be standing because it's Mississippi and nothing is built to withstand an earthquake. If it's a tornado, well, here at the DeSoto Center where I teach, there is a shelter for everybody to go hide in. Of course, if you're at home, use your best judgment. Hopefully there's no fire or earthquake at your house, or you're at least properly prepared for that. But just know where the exits and everything all are, particularly if you're on campus. Even when you're at home, at least have some sort of loose plan in case anything happens. Now, I am, again, Scott Mounger, the instructor for this course. I'm at the DeSoto Center in room 220, and my office number, or the extension, is 6129. So if you called Northwest, dial that extension, you get my number. Although the easiest way to get in touch with me is actually through email or Canvas. So if you actually Canvas inbox me, I will usually get back to you immediately. If you send me an email, again, pretty much immediately. If you call my office number, I typically am in classes for 4 or 5 hours a day, usually from morning to afternoon. So I won't actually get anything until probably I get done with all my classes and get back there in the afternoon. So if you want to get me to get back to you quickly, then please message me via email or Canvas. If you call me, it may be a while before I get back to you. Having a flash drive would be useful to keep everything together. Of course, if you're using your personal computer, then you can just keep it there, but make sure you have maybe a folder or something somewhere where you can keep it all organized and everything. I do have certain naming conventions I use when I name things, and of course, as we go through the course, I'll explain what those are. You don't necessarily have to follow those, but I will explain why I name things the way I do when we get to that, and why I think it's better to do certain things. So, grade scale. It's your normal 10-point scale. 90 and up is an A. 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, and so forth. Pretty straightforward. As far as percentages go, assignments are 35%, tests 45%, and final exam 20%. So if you were to, let's say, cheat on every single assignment and that don't catch you, it's very unlikely. You still have to get through the tests and the final exam, kind of without that support. So I would encourage you, if you do the assignments and you don't have any problems with those, the tests are really comparatively easier. The questions aren't near as difficult as usually what you have to do in the programming assignments. All right, so that's the assignments. Let's move on. We'll have roughly 7 to 10 assignments, maybe a little bit more. Well, these are the programming assignments. You may have a couple of like reading, like answer type questions throughout the semester. We'll see how that's going to roll. But programming wise, you'll have about 7 to 10, and you may have a couple of extra outside of programming here and there as well. You'll get about 3 tests for the semester, each one being about 15% of the grade, and each test is going to be over whatever section we're currently over. And the final, of course, I say that section, but programming is very cumulative in that, the previous stuff will still be on the, the current test. But when we get to the final exam, all that we covered for the entire semester will be on there. So instead of asking like a cumulative question, I may ask a specific question from like the first test or the second test or something like that. As far as studying and practice goes, I will have lecture videos posted, and of course physical lectures if you're like physically here. But it never hurts, like whatever topic we're covering, to maybe go to YouTube or just search. There's several places online that have tutorials on how to do things. And if we're talking about user input, we'll just type in C++ user input examples, and you'll see a couple of videos of some people talking about how they work. Fire those up and write a little bit of code along with them. The more examples you can do, the better. If you don't quite understand something that I'm explaining the way I explain it, maybe you can find a couple other videos that explain it a little better or in a way you understand. At the very least, more practice is not going to hurt you. So I would suggest, although the rule of thumb is for every hour in class, you should do a couple of hours outside of class. That depends highly on the person and, your aptitude. But the more you practice, the better you're going to be at it. So, all right, and that's the rough outline for the syllabus. If you have any other specific questions or anything like that, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I guess I'll see you in class.